645-03-097. How many of you have memorized your driver's license number, social security number, student ID number? 645-03-097 was my prison ID number. And unlike the other numbers, it was me. It was who I was. My identifier, deliberately made to dehumanize me. A number I will never forget. So much so that when I was doing the onboarding process to becoming a student here at Stanford, I was prompted to create a username. I was told it should be something I will never forget. Well, that's easy, 645-03-097. It didn't like that. It wanted at least one letter. So I took the 7 off the end and I put a P in the front for my name. I was very surprised when I went to go use my student email for the very first time, because what they didn't tell me was my username was going to be my email address. So for those of you who have emailed me before, I may have wondered, what is up with this weird email address? It comes from my prison ID. Now I can joke about this because today I stand before you as Paul Calvo, midstream engineer and Stanford alum. Now it was a lot harder than it should have been. I left a lot of men like me on that island of lost souls who still believe they are those numbers. Now, I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for them, identify with them, but to merely understand they will one day be your neighbors. Would you rather have an educated engineer as a neighbor or a hardened criminal who was forgotten in solitary confinement? Thanks to the power of education, I am the former and no longer the latter. Throughout this talk, I'll give you an inside look as to what is going on at some of our state prisons here in California. The CDCR stands for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And the heart of that rehabilitation is education. While lots being done for prison reform, the most vital component of prison reform is education. According to the United States Department of Justice, around 95% of those in state prisons will one day be released. Isn't it common sense to make them good neighbors for our sake as well as theirs? I am living proof of this. There are no bars between us. I recently talked with a friend who is a professor at Pleasant Valley State Prison. He also teaches at a college outside of prison. Same class, same exact way. He pulls no punches for the men in prison. And he's been doing this for a while now, long enough to collect data on both groups. One group scores an average final grade of 94%. The other, 72. One group has no internet access, an hour a week of in-face office hours with the professor, and an hour a day of study time. They can also memorize the textbook. The other group has internet access, ChatGPT, and won't even crack open the textbook. The group that did better were the men in Pleasant Valley State Prison, all labeled active gang members. This goes to show just how hungry they are, not only for education, but to succeed within education. This is also reflected in a study done by the Vera Institute, where they found 70% of those incarcerated would love to pursue education. Earlier, I said I'd give you an inside look as to what is going on. And with that said, it doesn't matter if you're part of a gang or not outside of prison. If you are a white man and you go to prison, you will roll with the white gang members. Same thing for Hispanics from Southern California, Northern California. You will roll with a gang. It's survival. An interesting study done by Robert Allen at Emory University, Department of Economics, found that a little over half of those with no college education released from prison and will return within 3 years. This number drops down to 5.6% for those with bachelor's degrees and 0% for those with master's degrees. How many of these men have the skills or training needed to survive? What would any of you be doing without your skills, training, or education? How much of your current position is owed to education? Now, I'm sure you all have amazing personalities and innate knowledge, but you needed your education in order for your talents to flourish. You needed your education for the opportunities it provided. State Bill 416 was passed in California back in 2021, and it mandates implementing education in prison. In this picture is a group of underground scholars from UC Berkeley, and thanks to the work done by them and faculty at UC Berkeley, Cal will start offering a bachelor's degree in the fall of 2025 to the men in San Quentin State Prison. San Quentin, a violent and notorious prison, is doing its best to implement education as a form of rehabilitation. An added benefit of this is a decrease in violence. An article written by Scott Gray describes how prison administrators notice this decrease in violence within prison units that implement education. We also see this at Pleasant Valley State Prison, where the men have gone from talking about gang and prison politics to educational goals, courses they'd like to take, dream schools they'd love to attend upon release. This also benefits those on the other side of the law. If you ask a correction officer, what is a good day at work? More than likely you'll get, as long as I make it home, as your answer. But not all prison staff believe we should implement education. I've seen situations where correctional officers will purposely leave an inmate in his cell, refusing to take him to school. I've also seen other situations where correctional officers will lock women faculty from the colleges in rooms with the inmates. I've also seen prison education departments come after professors who want to provide additional resources to their students. They just want to check boxes. Now, I don't want to demonize all prison staff. There's a captain at Pleasant Valley State Prison who's doing his best to help the men there succeed. In doing so, he has converted an entire unit to an educational unit, meaning if you are housed there, you're enrolled in college. But there was one question I had to ask my friend. What is it that the men want the most? And he said, yeah, access to YouTube for educational videos would be helpful, more office hours with the professor. But the one thing they want the most is for people to believe in them. And this had me thinking about my journey and the main contributor to my success. And it was around this time I made an appointment with Stanford to take a look at my application to Stanford. In my application, I wrote about how I'd spent most of my teen years and my 20s in prison. This is what a reader from admissions had to say. Make sure applicant is made aware of all the resources available to him due to his unique background. Not prison background, not criminal background, unique background. Stanford believed in me. My professors from Fresno City College to Stanford believed in me. Deans and presidents believed in me. Friends and family believed in me. My PSET partners believed in me. On a Thursday at 11 p.m., 59 minutes before homework was due. Do you know how good that feels? Knowing you have a community that is rooting for your success. That's all they want. They want to know they're not being judged by their worst mistake, but that we believe they have the power to rise above that mistake. That their past doesn't define their future. Prison is a transformative experience. What we need to ask ourselves is, what do we want to turn them into? More hopeless? Despair? More dangerous? Or do we want to give them the tools needed to reintegrate into society successfully? I hope to one day see an entire prison converted to a college campus, meaning that those who are housed there are students, not inmates. Where they have a warden that believes in them, captains that believe in them, education departments that believe in them, and don't just want to check boxes. After this, I will wrap up and head home to my 3-year-old son and my 1-year-old daughter. And all they've known is this Stanford bubble. And sometimes it pains me to think, what would they be doing had I not gone down this path of education? What would they be learning? Who would be around them? What would their future be? Their future starts with my present. Thanks to the power of education, the legacy I now leave to my kids is no longer incarcerated gang member. The legacy I leave my kids is Stanford graduate and engineer. I dream that the people in our prisons across this nation can one day say the same. Thank you.